I've seen it, though you won't believe it. It's a miracle year in which we're living. Come on outside, it's a beautiful day.
Oh, come on outside, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. What you're about to see is out of this world. Step right up now, don't be shy, because we're about to show you how cars can fly.
Who dares to fight with the icon of his day, and she finds her own miracle on the way. I said, hey now, life's a joy. You gotta try your best and give your all, and when the facts don't fit the theory, change the facts again. Ooh, I've seen it, though you won't believe it. It's a miracle year in which we're living. Come on outside, it's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Silence. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Yes, it's been a while, I know, but you have tuned in to Saturday Science Chats. Yeah, I know, folks. I know it's been a while, and I do apologize. But, I've got my own job and actually got super busy, working way too many hours. I do work for a living in the area of supercomputers and human language. So I've been working on a side project for almost 5 years, and I got about 5 more years to go. But I am back, and we have a lot of good shows coming up, so you want to make sure you hit that subscribe button and the little bell next to it. You'll be alerted when we come live. But today we're going to be talking about something I've been thinking about a lot this year because of COVID and us doing all these things virtually versus our in-person conferences. And so today on Saturday Science Chats, we're going to be talking about Dissidents Today. That is people who work outside the mainstream, and where do we go from here? I'm going to talk about my experience with dissidents for the last almost 30 years, I guess. Pretty much almost 30 years. And the history of it, where things were, how we got to where we are, and where we're going. What do we do? It's just a whole different universe out there. But first, I want to thank everybody. Everybody's watching live. Also for everyone watching recorded. Without you guys, we would not be here. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to everybody in the John Chappell Natural Philosophy Society. We're coming up to 1,000 subscribers. So please, if you're watching on the CNPS YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button. Support, hit like, smash that like button, as they say, and we'll be very grateful. But we do appreciate it, because without you guys and our members and our contributing members, we would not be here today. So let's go forward. We are a place where critical thinkers meet. We are the John Chappell Natural Philosophy Society and the Dissident Science YouTube channel. And we are here to support serious scientific ideas, theories, philosophies, and experiments that are not commonly accepted in mainstream science. Yes, we use the term natural philosophy in its broader sense, which includes physics, cosmology, mathematics, and philosophy of science. I know a lot of people today who are disenchanted with science pretty much are in that same vein. So, yeah, it's good to see everybody. Good morning, Adam Lohr. It is great to see you. Oh, good morning. He must be on the East Coast with me, or even further west, but good to see everybody. And of course, our mission is to promote critical thinking without malice. That is, if you have a totally different idea about how the universe works, and it is a viable one, and it is something that is you've worked a long time on and deserves to have an ear, we'll be here to support you. Of course, we're an organization that supports, publishes, and promotes serious work outside the mainstream, and we provide a forum for open debate on modern topics in all these areas. And of course, we are a forum for presenting serious papers and theories without fear of censorship, and we are run in our entirety by our membership. So we are open to challenging mainstream science and allow and encouraging competing ideas or models. We follow the scientific method. I know there's just so many people out there that think if you don't believe in the Big Bang, then you've thrown away all of science. Oh, those people don't believe in science, but that's a bunch of baloney. And oh yeah, let me get you the green room. Yeah, Ian Cohen couldn't get in. That's because I just set the subdomain literally about 11 minutes, and I'm sitting here getting ready for my talk, and I didn't do that. So I'm going to put up here, if you want to join us live, just go to live.naturalphilosophy.org and you can come in. We have 10 places for our green room. What's the green room? That allows you to come in and debate face to face, so I can't dominate and tell the whole world my particular view of the universe, which of course is right and everyone else is wrong. Just kidding, of course. But anyways, there's the address. So you literally go to live.naturalphilosophy.org. And yes, it's through a browser. That's the way it works. That's the way StreamYard works. That's what we use. And so come on. I welcome you, because today I'll be talking, but we don't have a person talking. I'm going to give a overview, and then hopefully we can have some good conversations about where dissidents are and where we're going. So yeah, we give voice to the voiceless, and this is where science advances and always has outside the mainstream. That's just the way it's always worked. Who we are not. We don't have a specific point of view, so we have people with competing ideas, which is the way it should be, and we're not a general science organization. So Sabine Hassenfelder, or whatever her last name is, who wrote the book Lost in Math, which I thought she was going to be another Dr. Mr. That's going to Swicky. Oh man, I'm just kidding. The guy who wrote the Higgs Fake. Oh my gosh, he's going to kill me. If you're watching, I apologize. I'm 62 today. Oh, by the way, I do share a birthday today with two great scientists who are no longer with us, who are Edward Dowdy. He was a NASA scientist who was out there telling everybody, hey, guess what? Light doesn't bend, gravity doesn't bend light. Coronas of the sun bend light. And also Neil Munch, who passed away a little while back, and he was the "What are your assumptions to your work?" So happy birthday to wherever they are in the universe. Because sharing a birthday with those guys, I always felt very honored. General, we are not a general science organization, and we're not going to do things like the last one that Sabine wrote, because she's now a science evangelist. Her last video was, "Are plastic bad for you?" It's really sad, because she really had the opportunity to advance science, and she had a opportunity to use her position as well, but she decided to become a YouTuber that talks everything science. And her last one, I mean, it's sad. It's sad. It's a big missed opportunity. Anyways, we're not about conspiracies or UFOs, and we I can't read. I've got spoonerisms today. We stick to foundational science like gravity, fields, magnetism, tectonics, math, philosophy, Big Bang, cosmology, all those things. So websites, hitting my microphone. This website is actually quite good. I've used it quite a lot, and a lot of people who, when I talk to, who are friends or people interested, we have our book out now, and we're actually going around giving talks on our book. And one of the things is when people don't understand that there's actually problems with mainstream science, I point them to beyondmainstream.org. Now, if you are a person that's new to the channel, or you're watching this for the first time, go to beyondmainstream.org. Go there, and you will be able to read about, in a very interesting way, articles and a website that gives you and points out scientists working outside the mainstream, those people who have found problems with the Big Bang, mathematics, plate tectonics, all of those things, the Big Bang, I probably said that, relativity, et cetera, and new models of the universe as well. So go there, refer your friends there. We get quite a lot of views over there. So and then, of course, we have our community, the naturalphilosophy.org critical thinking community, really great website. There you can join in, register, it's free, and join in the conversations about the world. And no, you don't have to have a PhD in physics. Probably you won't, because if you do, you are indoctrinated into thinking all of us are wrong and whatever they say in the university is right. And that's exactly the opposite of what universities should do. They also have our natural philosophy Wikipedia, which is the exact same software as Wikipedia, using MediaWiki, I think it's called, open source. So that's there, and you can put your information. So if you're a person who wants to put their bio up as if they could put it in Wikipedia, and you're not a consensus person, then there you go. You can do that. We do have memberships, monthly, 5, 10, 25, 50, and the monthly. So, maybe you're on a tight budget. You can do $5 a month. It helps. Well, it doesn't help. It sustains us, basically. And what sustains us are people who pay us money as members to keep us going, and donations as well. And we have a lot of expenses. StreamYard is a service. Our web server is a service. Our software on the website is a service. Our service to keep our server from being hacked, which we were hacked for almost 5 years by Anonymous in Brazil. These things are all cost money, and without your support, we don't exist, because I'm not independently wealthy. I'd love to have that problem. I mean, everybody, that would be absolutely wonderful. I do want to thank our patrons, people who have actually donated money, and Nick Percival. Haven't checked out Nick of Time YouTube channel, Relativity, Nick of Time. You certainly want to check out that and subscribe to his YouTube channel. He's got a great channel. Dr. Cynthia Whitney, who is our chief scientist, Dr. PhD in special relativity from MIT, and Ramsey, who is that's his pen name, and Osme. I want to thank him, and of course all the annual and monthly memberships. We need your vital support. So thank you so much. And available on Amazon is RCNPS Publishing, people we help publish books. Available on Amazon is Notfinity, Matter and Motion by George Coyne. Consciousness and the Big Bang, absolutely a great book. If you are interested in anything that has to do with consciousness and what that is, you've got to read his book. This is like absolutely great. George is a really amazing mind. Really love when he comes on our show and talks, but you should check out his book. It's really great. And of course, Ramsey has his book out on Ether. It's over 400 pages, available free. I'll tell you how to get that. And publishing August 21st. Boy, you can see I copied these slides from a while back. No, it's been published. It was published on that day. For sure it was. And it's now available worldwide on Amazon. So this is the Ether book. If you go to theetherbyramsey.com, I'll leave that on the screen a little bit. You can certainly get that book and download it and read it. Spent many years. My dad was one of the editors on getting that, formatting it more than anything. And again, there we go. Just hit my do this right. There we go. My wrist hit the keyboard. So if you can make a donation to the CMPS if you want, if you do get that book and it's enjoyable to you, any donation, $5, $10, anything, that would be great. And we also have the Nofinity Matter and Emotions now available, and this is the look of the cover. Very similar to our cover. We're trying to keep at least the covers that we're helping out with. So if you have a book to publish, we can help you with it. We know how to do that and get that out there. And so if you haven't checked that out, you can get that. And this is an amazing. We will be having James Maxlow again. He has literally put his entire book online for free, and I will say this again, and I will stand by this and argue with anybody on the planet, the most respected geologists on the planet. Put them in an audience, in an arena, and I will debate them publicly. This is, in my opinion, the best book ever written in geology, ever, ever. Nothing close to it. I think it's going to be hard to even equal this ever, because I think the moment we had a real geologist looking at expansion tectonics and really putting the information down in a book form, this is it. And that's James Maxlow. Absolutely mind-blowing. So if you are watching this for the first time and think the Earth expansion is crazy, well, go and look in the Pacific if you can and see that, oh my gosh, Australia fits right up between the United States and the Asia, and you can see where South American can fit in, all in the Pacific. That is, it's not only on the Atlantic side. And also, if you want, take a look at Neil Adams' expansion, Expanding Earth. And if you watch that video and you're not, if that doesn't convince you, I don't know what will. So again, the most important book in geology is available to everyone now. I got a frog in my throat. Principia Mathematica 2 is available worldwide. If you want, you can go to book.dhilster.com. It's $2.99 for the ebook. And the ebook version is very good. We actually had somebody do that, believe it or not, going from LaTeX, which is the language for book publishing, to put it in the right format, and ebook format are just very different. And so we had a person do the majority of it, and then I went through the whole book, made sure it looked really good, and had the graphics. I put all the graphics in there at high res, so even if you're on the phone, you can double tap any graphic and zoom into it, because we have a lot of graphics in this book. One of the things is we have 5 ratings on Amazon, and all 5 stars on every rating. So those people who don't like me or my father in our book, you can go out there and write down what you really think. But no, we've had a really great response to it. But again, for $3 you can get the ebook and you can read it on a phone. Looks good on a phone. We also have paperback, $35. We earn almost nothing on those prices, $35 and $42. The reason they are more expensive is because it's a color book, over 250 pages of color pages in our book. So. And this is the cover, very similar to the one you saw before. The universe is not magic. Yep, the entire universe is moving mass. Everything, even the quantum level, what we call the quantum level. And I'm sure people here are, oh, play the bumper. Good thing I always put these in here. Yeah, so if you are a person that has something to say and you want to be on our program, we are here and available. Just send me information and we'll see if you can come on here and talk to a worldwide audience. We get a lot of course, our recordings get a lot of views. So anyways, coming up is Dr. James Maxlow, and he's going to be speaking before the end of this year. He's a brave guy. He lives in Perth, Australia. Right now, it is 11:17 at night, which means when he talks and gives his talk to us, we are going to be talking with him between the hours of 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. his time. So I always blame it on him because the Earth's expanded. And if it didn't expand, he would have been right next to California. But anyways, he'll be talking about small Earth modeling, which is quite interesting. How do you model this stuff? I mean, it's one thing to model on flat maps. It's another to model it on a globe. And the only real way to see this stuff is on a globe. So it's quite an amazing adventure. I'm looking forward to that talk. He's all ready for it. I just got to get him scheduled. So that's good. We also have Jason Verbelli. And he is a person I have seen. You may have seen him on Facebook or YouTube. I haven't looked a lot at his work yet, but I know he's been working and showing around and talking about the extinction shift theory, which was Dr. Edward Dowdy, unfortunately, who passed away, I think, last December. And he was a NASA scientist who showed that he worked with lasers and telescopes. I probably got all that wrong, but he did look up into the sky a lot as a NASA scientist, and he noticed that, outside the corona of suns, light isn't bending. And I know a lot of dissident scientists who have their own theories, even ether theories, do claim that it jibes and lines up with general relativity and space-time. And guess what? You're going to have to explain why it only happens in coronas of suns. So be careful if you are a dissident scientist and you want to show that how your model shows that light is bent by gravity, then you better be prepared to explain why it doesn't happen outside the coronas of the sun. It does in the corona. It's pretty much called refraction, but that's just my opinion and other people's opinions. But anyways, it'll be really interesting. Jason, hopefully have him on, talk with him. He said he is ready. So, and then we are going to come on. We have given a couple talks already about our book. We've given one on our book signing day here at our home with lots of people to a general audience, and they were certainly actually quite receptive to our book and our model, and actually understood it quite well. And that was very encouraging. People came up to us afterward and said, "Hey, you got me interested in physics again and cosmology. I never knew what a magnetic field could be." Well, Yonel Denou knows. We used his model in our model. And we're also going to extend the Principia to the entire universe. Yes, all the way infinitely down and all the way infinitely up. And of course, people are going to imagine that we have everything solved at those levels. No, but we know the mechanisms of how all that stuff can be explained. In fact, Jeff Yee, who is doing amazing work, one of the 5 eureka moments I've had myself with physics and cosmology, is his work with what he calls the quarks, and the way they are put together in a nucleus, and him being able to describe the SPDF orbitals mechanically, and that is truly amazing. Even our model, we can explain that in the sense of mechanisms that are available to explain it. Do we have the exact details? No. But that's the one thing. And then the other thing that's going to be really interesting, we're going to do actually 2 talks. My dad's an electrical engineer for over 40 years and in the industry. And one of the biggest things that we not only describe physically what's happening, physically, not the equations for electrical engineering, but the physics of it. We talk about how a battery works, the physics, like a lot of the energy of the battery is outside the battery. Can you believe that? We can show that. And also what happens with all the components of electronic circuits. And of course, if you get our book, you're going to get a really good information on that. And because of our model, it's made predictions on simple things like parallel resistors, and is current the same all the way around a circuit with a simple power source and resistors. Turns out that it isn't, and my dad has 70-80% correlation on that. So our model does make predictions, and so that's pretty cool. So we're going to be breaking it down to 2 talks, one about our model in general, and then one about the particle model and what it says about electronics. And my dad is a skeptical person, and he made a good living at electrical engineering in research in design, and for him to be amazed about what he now sees in a world he's lived in for over 40 years is pretty darn amazing. So, but today our subject is dissonance today, and where do we go from here? Now, I have been talking about having a conference this whole year, and I became busy for quite a while. I decided to take some time off from this and really think about it because, we can keep going forward, but if we really don't have an idea of where do we go from here, where are we, what do we do, what are we doing other than just, oh, it's Saturday morning, let's shoot the whatever, the talk about scientific topics, and we don't really have a clear direction as a group. I mean, we do have the John Chappell Natural Philosophy Society. It's been around since the early 1990s in one form or another. We've had conferences where we've had between 150 and 200 people, live conferences. We then in 2015 got back to our live conferences, and we had anywhere from about 20 people showing up per conference. What's happened? Where are we? Where do we go? How does it fit into this new world we live in? So I'm going to talk a little bit about what I know, and that's what I've been thinking about, and that's why I didn't come online, because I really did say, what are we doing? Why do we do this? I mean, it's interesting for us, but are we, the whole idea of our group is to give voice to the voiceless in science, but how do we do this in today's world? It's just not the same. So I'm going to tell you a little bit what I know, and I've gotten these from stories from people who worked in the 1980s and before, who were dissidents. One of the stories was from Stephen Hurl, who wrote the book on dinosaurs and the expanding Earth. So I talked with him, and pretty much in the 1980s and before, if you were a dissident scientist, obviously you weren't working in the university, because that's just what they wouldn't allow you. So everybody pretty much was working in isolation, and pretty much they didn't have the internet and Google and all world knowledge and human knowledge in their hand like a smartphone. They basically had libraries, and in the libraries you had books and journals and those things, and in those books and journals you had references and bibliographies. Those were the contacts. The reference and bibliographies really were the contacts, and it was tough to find people's phone numbers, and often people would write letters as a way of first contacting someone. You'd literally write a letter to someone, and that someone may know it, or they may know someone else, and then they go and find it. It was just a whole different world than it is today. So that's the way it was working. So really, you didn't have any dissident organizations per se, at least that I know of, that were really together or working together in as late as the 1980s. In the 1990s, we started to use the DARPA internet, which didn't have the World Wide Web, which was only in actually the first forms of it, even in the research labs. I was in a computing research at the time, and an AI lab in Space Park TRW, and there were electronic bulletin boards, and I don't know if people remember, it was America Online, and you literally had a modem that you hooked up to your telephone that would dial it, and you heard the in this like that kind of thing, and that's how you pretty much communicated with everybody, and that's the way I did. And when people started getting the bulletin boards and people found out about that, then they started to very slowly try to find each other. They got more involved, but pretty much in the 1990s, these isolated people started finding themselves via the libraries, the electronic bulletin boards. Then the NPA was started in the early 1990s by John Chappell, and he basically kept everybody abreast by snail mail and typed newsletter. Yes, a typewriter, not even a computer doing it, but typewriters, and pretty much snail mail. So they would type out the newsletter. They would send the letters out via mail. People would mail checks in to help pay for some of this stuff. They would obviously talk by telephones. And in the 1990s, they had their first conferences, and who really was instrumental in that was John Chappell. That's why we have our organization named after John Chappell. because he really was the impetus for that. And they met in person. But I think it was 1990, 1992, 93. They met in California, Oklahoma, I think, other places, University of Connecticut eventually, too, Flagstaff, Arizona in 1996 when I first met them there. And that's how I got involved with them. In the 2000s, of course, then we started getting more. We got websites. We got the in-person conferences became, it started to really grow. There was really widespread collaborations. It was the first time I saw people writing papers together. It was very common for you to see people working during the year on a paper because one person would have an idea. Here's a really great idea. Absolutely true. True story. The maximum force of gravity. It's not infinite. So people were interested in that. And there'd be 3 or 4 people in the group. I think it was Peter Marquardt and John Heaston, wrote a paper on that. And another one, C squared. Why is C squared everywhere? And so people would collaborate and talk about that and write papers about that. And so it was really in the 2000s, the beginning of the first decade of the 2000s, where you saw these in-person conferences really growing and widespread collaborations. And it was in the later part of that decade, the start of video conferencing. I believe our first ones were in 2008. That's when I met Ionel Dunu, who's a Romanian scientist and teacher, I think, a science teacher, who actually lives in Thailand. And he's one that did the amazing, he showed us that magnetism is flowing particles. So that was really great. But that was in DimDim. I mean, DimDim doesn't, if you probably look it up, you probably couldn't even find anything about it. In fact, DimDim had used a format, I think it was, what's it called? Flash. No, I can't remember. Anyways, use a format of video which I couldn't convert anymore. I couldn't convert it. We had literally recorded conferences from 2008 that I could not convert and put into onto our YouTube channel, which is sad. So anyways, that was a really growing time in the 2000s. Let's see. And in 2010s, we really upped the websites a lot more. This was the time when Greg and I we made our database between 2008 and the beginnings of the 2010s. We had the in-person conferences kept growing. And then we had collaborative conferences. The MPA joined up with Electric Universe. We did that in Maryland, probably our biggest conference. That was a big conference because Electric Universe is a way bigger group than us. And we got together and had a joint conference, and it worked out really well. We also had the MPA and the Tesla Tech. I think that happened at least twice in Arizona. I can't remember where in Arizona, but it wasn't Phoenix. Flagstaff, was it? I don't remember. NPA also joined up with the Cosmology Group. In fact, I think one of them, we had the Tesla Tech's Cosmology Group and the MPA, and we'd have multiple sessions. I know in 2010, my family hosted the conference at the University of California, Long Beach. We lived in Long Beach, and there's quite a few people there, Electric Universe people there too. We even had at these conferences almost a conference room where people brought displays and experiments and electronic gadgets. We did that also at the Tesla Tech. It was wonderful. It was just really the heyday in the early 2000s, from 2010 to 2015. It truly was a heyday of the dissidents and people getting together and hands-on things, and it was just truly amazing. And we also really started our video conferencing in a much better format. So even though we had it in the end of the 2008, it was sort of not so much. Whereas in the 2000s itself, we started to really go a lot more mainstream. So if we look at what happened between basically 2015 and today, what happened during the 2010s, we had a lot of people and a lot of people looking around saying, whoa, there's a lot of people, a lot of energy here, a lot of money. I know even for our organization, we had thousands of dollars in the bank. I think we had over $10,000 in the bank from all of our conferences and everything. So we had good money to be able to work with and do these conferences and do things. And when you had those things, we had our directorate, which met regularly, who controlled what was done with the money, with memberships and all that. And unfortunately, because of that, you get into politics. And what happened in 2015, between 2013 to 2015, certain people entered the directorate. Unfortunately, my friend of Greg Volk and myself, we eventually literally got pushed out of it. And we thought there were people there who were actually doing things that were going to, how do you say, really help out the organization. Boy, were we wrong. We just got the wrong people in there. They basically drained the bank account, not necessarily, well, they could have paid them, so we don't know. They said all the things we were doing were wrong, that the website was wrong, and I had a lot of the website was my own code. I wrote over 100,000 lines of PHP code because at that time they didn't have the things we have today, which you can just pay for. And so they said, oh, they try to look at it as some corporation. I mean, this is just a bunch of scientists, a bunch of cats trying to be herded, right? And it turned out that eventually that entire organization just destroyed itself. And we, during that time, were meeting with the people who were concerned about this and saw what was going on. And luckily, we got ourselves together. We got some funds between ourselves and called on everybody. We literally created the organization. We created bylaws or whatever you want to call it. We are a not-for-profit organization, not even a 501(c)(3) because you can have problems with people taking that over and ripping it from you as well. So we did have that done. One of the ladies who passed on a few years ago, she helped us in that endeavor. Her son did, a lawyer and all that. So we did everything. I think we incorporated in Michigan or whatever, and we formed our group, and pretty much 98% of the people who were part of the NPA, the Natural Philosophy Alliance, came over to the CNPS, the John Chappell Natural Philosophy Society. We wanted to keep natural philosophy in the word name. We wanted to make sure that with the NPA still being around, it was around for a couple of years. I think it even had one conference. And to tell you the truth, the people who were running it fooled people because they said we didn't exist, and we did. But they have one conference. I think you can even see on the World NPA YouTube website, they have some talks there. But again, like I said, that eventually just sort of disappeared. And we started again anew. And we called it the John Chappell Natural Philosophy, and then instead of Alliance Society, it didn't really matter. We just wanted to change that name. That's where that name came from, and we wanted to make sure that the members and the people who were members of the NPA knew who we were, because they know John Chappell started that, and so that was the reason we gave it, and it's sort of an homage in honor of John Chappell, who really started this group. So that's pretty much what happened. So from 2015 until today, 2021, we've really had really the last 15 years, from the NPA of the early 90s to now, we've lost probably, I am pretty sure we've lost almost half of our members. They're gone. They have passed on. They've died. And lots of people, when I look at the videos, I look at my documentary, Einstein Wrong, and I watch that. It's so sad because a lot of those people aren't with us anymore, and they were brilliant minds. So we're losing a generation who grew up in a very different world, one that wasn't online, one that didn't have video conferencing, one that, values in-person sitting down in person. And of course, that is really worth it. I will tell you, if we had a rich benefactor, I would work with no problem on making in-person conferences. But we're going to talk about that a little bit. But anyways, there's a loss of original physics and cosmology dissidents, the new dissidents, and there are new dissidents and new models. There are. And of course, social media, YouTube and channels and Facebook have changed so much of the landscape. And of course, if you are one of those, especially if you're my age, I'm 62 today, you're going to think, oh, YouTube and Facebook, YouTube maybe because, you can put stuff out there and I learn a lot and I see great videos. Facebook, nope. Facebook is where the people meet. And believe me, a lot of people come our way because of Facebook. Okay. So, in-person conferences. So I've been, we had a meeting about in-person conferences and the way we could do it, or online conference, how we could do it. But I want to get back to this because we're getting out of COVID. I know COVID's going on and I don't want to get into politics. Forget the politics about it. Let's just look at it this way. Yes, eventually we're going to be able to have our conferences again in person, but are they useful or are they pointless? And these are going to be some of the things we're going to talk about today. Let me just sort of give you my take on it. Okay, I want to give you all my ideas, and then we can open this up for everybody to talk. So I appreciate it. Again, if you want to come online, because we're going to open this up to talking, you can go to live.naturalphilosophy.org. And you can get there. I think there is some, I can put this in there. I think, I can make a brand out. I can put this in there, but it's just, I'm not going to do it. You have to type in IKC8USNMBV. No, type in live.naturalphilosophy.org. It will get you there. If you have a problem with that, it's because your browser is trying to remember it from last time. So you go into your incognito up at the top there. If you go to your, like Google, you can say new incognito window, then put live.naturalphilosophy.org. You will get there, guaranteed. So if you people had problems getting in there, Ian Cohen, that's why you got to go to I'm giving Ian a hard time, one of my favorite dissidents on the planet to talk with. So anyways, if you want to join us, because I'm going to be open for discussion for most of this time, and we will also take comments and I'll read those and we'll discuss them. But I really thought about it. Today and age, I mean, even our company is a multi-billion-dollar company, LexisNexis, the biggest publisher in the world. We sell our data. We have data about every American and everything about that person in our database. We are a company that's doing well. I love it because it's a European company. It's not like American companies whose profit, don't give a about their employees. This one does. That's why I like it. I like the company a lot. We went full-blown virtual since COVID. And we were going to go back in October now, but we didn't go back. We're supposed to go back in January. At that point now, they're offering people to stay at home full time. The world's changed. My daughter's in theater. They did auditions. You used to have to go to this one place, and all the 60 universities from musical theater would come place, and the auditions would all happen in one place to make it easier for everybody. COVID came along, and guess what? The kids can audition to way more universities, and the universities have no expenses anymore. They're not going to fly people out anymore. So they are now, it used to be, no, we have to see a person in person. Nope. It's a lot cheaper this way. So the question becomes, we all are going through this, is this worth it? Is there a better way to do this? I don't know. But, before video conferencing for the masses, meeting in person was the only way to interact. I'm reading my slides now. In-person conferences are expensive and time-consuming to do. That's an absolute fact. Not everybody can do them. In fact, I will tell you this, that I know, having been involved with helping with conferences for the MPA since 2008, that one of the big things we tried to do is move from coast to coast, because People couldn't do it, couldn't go there. They were on fixed incomes. They couldn't fly. They couldn't spend money staying at the hotel. We do have people that can. We have 20 people in our organization that can fly anywhere, be anywhere. That's great. But it's just not, and it's gotten worse. This whole thing about income inequality, things being more expensive, rich getting richer, it's absolutely true. The members' ability to pay for and attending conferences is becoming less and less because of it's coming less and less for everybody. It's harder and harder. And we are meeting year round online. I mean, we're doing it right here. So again, these are questions we're going to all talk about. People can give your opinions. Now we'll go on to my next slide here. Proceedings. Another one. Proceedings are books of things. Why were books and proceedings important? Well, you put those in libraries, and the libraries would go to universities, and those proceedings would go in, would be picked up by people to look at. That was before we had big repositories of scientific papers online. Papers can easily be found on the internet using search engines, and they can be almost anywhere. There are already large paper archives on the internet. Books are not as popular as online now. I mean, if you don't have an ebook, we have sold more ebooks than we have in physical books. We sold books on every continent almost, but more ebooks because it's easier. You can have 20 books, you can have thousands of books on your phone. And do the CMPS proceedings serve a purpose? Are they really serving a purpose? We need to sit back, just like in COVID, people sat back and said, I'm earning a starvation wage here in the United States, doing a menial job that no one cares about. They treat us like dirt, don't have any benefits. Is that what I want to do in my life? And so the Americans are quitting en masse, and they can't get anybody to work. And the people are going, they just want, no. They're reevaluating what their happiness is, everything. So we need to evaluate too. Do the CMPS proceedings serve a purpose? Are there alternatives to all this stuff? Here is one idea. Okay. I was talking with my dad. It's part of his ideas, my ideas. Let's say this. Let's say we're going to not do any in-person conferences anymore. They're expensive, not enough people to organize them. The last 5 years, we've only had 20 people at them. And every time we go, most of them is because I go into an area where they can drive to it. So for 5 years, that's what it says, been organized by one person. I've been doing the whole thing. So that's no fun. Proceedings and presentations. Well, what could we do? We could do the same things we do at the conference, but we do them year round. Do it yearly or every 2 years. And there will be certain Saturdays where a person's doing a presentation along with a paper, along with something, a formal presentation. At the end, we'll make a book out of it. And we'll put that on the Natural Philosophy Wiki because that way it'll also get indexed, but we'll also make a book. You must be a paying member and... Dave, what's the rest of that say? Must be a paying member and a person that, registers and all that stuff and that. That's just one idea. But another thing too is, what are we doing here as an organization? How do we get more people into it? We can just do this and hope people find us, or we can be smarter on what we do. One of the things that happens, and I know this for a fact, that my father and other people who have YouTube channels, including myself, if you happen to do, or Jeff Yee has some YouTube videos that are in the tens of thousands. He's doing way better than me at Dissident Science. Why? Because he did a topic like, what is ether? And those things get a lot of traffic. So one of the things I was thinking of, this is just my idea too, is new directions to growing the CMPS. Well, we could do a series of university-like historical physics and cosmology lectures with a dissident perspective. Now, my dad did this at a talk at just recently to a group of people, and he did this. He basically said, I'm going to talk about light. He talked about light. It was a great lecture, so I'm going to try to get him to do it here. Now, if we do those things, we're going to get more people in this direction. And people are going to find out that things are not that great. And this is just an idea I came up with after talking with my father, I think it was about a day or two ago. And then we could create a video playlist and catalog these things. But not talk about what's wrong with relativity. Talk about the history of relativity and really do good research and prepare a really good talk on it. and then have somebody come on and do that, and do one on the Big Bang, gravity, special relativity, for instance. Those things, if we made videos and we made them in a way that's interesting, so a person's like learning stuff, we're going to hook them, because one of the things I like to do is learn about something. So I find out that, about some type of new solar technology, and somebody makes this informative video about it. Well, we can do that. Even better would be if somebody had money that we would actually could produce these. If I had no job to do and that's all I would do this full time, I've made those. In the Dissident, if you go back to about the middle part of my Dissident Science YouTube channels, I had scripted, well-written, no ahs, no ums, every word spoken perfectly, and really nice graphics. And I got a lot of, my subscribers were going like that. Well, how can we do this? Well, we have a lot of people who have a lot of knowledge about certain areas, not only the dissident side, but how it fits into regular. So if we go in and start talking about this, we can surreptitiously at the end tell them that the moon is made of green cheese, and they don't know it's coming. But just a joke, of course. But anyways, that's another idea. So why do we exist? Well, we exist to support the unsupported. We're here to promote critical thinking in science. We don't support one theory or one point of view, and we support the principles of doing good science. So hopefully that has given everyone a sort of overview of where we've been, the dissidents. Generation is dying out there that started this group. We have a new generation of people coming in. We got a lot of new people watching us today that weren't members of the MPA ever. And we have people that have been in both. And we have to sit back and reflect. Am I going to spend a lot of time on a conference that will have 15 to 20 people during the whole cycle of it? Is it serving a purpose? Is it helping out? Is it more of fun for those people who like to go? If I put this in the middle of Kansas where no one lives, how many people would go there? There's all kinds of things to consider, but I want to open it up. So we do have the green room. Let me put this up again once again. You go to live.naturalphilosophy.org on your browser. If you don't see that, it's not going there. Go to incognito, the one that you go in where it doesn't remember anything. It's like a fresh slate. You will get to us and you'll come in the green room. And I do see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people in the green room, and only 2 of them I'd really want to talk with. No, I had to make somebody laugh there. I'm pretending to be but anyways, go ahead, raise your hands, come on. I do see people there. If you don't have your video on, you can do that, but I'd be happy to have anybody talk. Hey, my dad, I think, had to go moving. Hey, anybody raise their hand, say something. I know Ian will say something. Hey, Ian, I'm just going to bring you on anyways, whether you want to be or not. So how are you, Ian?
Not too bad at all, David. Thank you.
Why don't we do this? Why don't you tell me, because you're here almost every week, or every week. Well, when we're here,
Formally.
You've been around, and one of the things you have as a perspective is more like I have, and probably even more. What changes do you see? I mean, it is a different world, that where we lived and when we were having. I'm sure you were involved with dissidents. When did you first get involved in dissidents? When did you start that?
Well, you mean the community of dissidents?
Yes, the community of dissidents. Yeah.
Well, let's see. That was probably I was going to say fairly recently, but no, it was probably a good bit over 20 years ago now. I mean, I sort of started looking at this area in physics myself in the 90s, maybe early to mid 90s. And I suppose that got me doing a bit of research and maybe deciding to publish. I think that probably occurred first, maybe just the very beginning of the new century. And then I attended one of the gravitational and electromagnetic conferences in St. Petersburg in Russia. And then I got involved with the Glenn Baxter group, and then I got involved
Right.
with the NPA. So,
Right.
so I suppose I've been pretty much involved for 20 years, but it
Right.
doesn't date back very much more than that. And I was going to say, I don't know that as I get older, I don't know if I'm getting grumpier, but I think things are getting worse. I mean, Richard Feynman's famous quotation that he would prefer to have questions which cannot be answered rather than answers which cannot be questioned.
Yes.
Well, I think we've gone more and more into the latter phase.
Oh yeah.
Than existed in his time, and it's extended from the sort of areas we're looking at, physical science, to everything now in the world. I don't know how enhancing our own contributions and maybe visibility would affect that at all.
Right.
This whole business of the settled science, even the phrase "the science." Well, I don't know if there's such thing as the science. That's like holy writ. This is what X or Y said, and you mustn't question it. That's what the science connotes. But every day on the media, you hear the science says this. The science is settled. The experts say that. There's no question. You're just wasting your time. You are anti-science, or you are spreading false information, or all these phrases which are used, and you're not allowed to discuss these things. And this is becoming more and more pervasive. At least I
think one of the things I would say to that, and I agree that it seems that way, but I think the way, if I step back and look at it, it is more of controlling of a narrative that they're trying to shove down our throats in some way. Because let's say if you are a person in power, and whatever that is, whether politics or science or whatever, even science, and you have if you're the University of Israel and you are in collaboration, if not outright run the Facebook page of almost 20 million viewers on Facebook, that's money. That's power. What are you going to do? You don't want to open up this idea that relativity is unsettled science. And so I think one of the things is I am not sure the people themselves necessarily think that. And I think this part of this whole thing of woke, good or bad, what you want, but your eyes being more wide open. I think people in general, and I've found out in the general layman's area, especially with our book, because it's easy to understand, that people say, yeah, I mean, I don't, just because they give a Nobel Prize for it, just because these scientists stand on TV, there's a lot of skepticism. But when you get closer to universities and those types of people, yeah, I agree. It's you do get into the sense, and I that was my feeling for the last month and a half when we weren't on the air. I'm thinking, what are we doing? What difference are we making? What, like you said, we're going to be meeting together and all that, but it's settled. We're outside the settled science. They'll start, how do you say, Facebook and YouTube will start deeming us unworthy because we're not, we're going against something. But the good news is, what I've seen is that there are a lot of things, especially in politics. I'm not any political group. I'm an independent thinker, but there are now places on YouTube where you have like one of my favorite shows is you got a conservative and a liberal person who are all just wanting the life to be better for each of us. That's what they want. And they cut through all that junk of, this big narrative. Here in the United States, I don't know if you've seen that video, but you got all these people on news, local news, reading the exact same script across hundreds of stations. There's no journalism, even independent thinking in journalism anymore. And that doesn't help, right? We used to have journalists that would go to like, oh, hey, look at this group. And they're talking about it. They would go to Cynthia Whitney and say, oh, you got your PhD in special relativity. You tried to apply it and it failed. This is a good story. Nope. I did that for my the Einstein wrong. I figured this would blow it open. Everybody I talked to. But what happened is when I sent it to the 80 film festivals, what I got back was it's just we don't want to open up that can of worms. We don't want to look crackpot. We don't want to, and it's funny because that's what documentarians are notoriously the ones who go after the real stories. The only place I made it into the finals was a couple places. One was the Oxford Film Festival because they liked Newton more than Einstein. But I think what I'm saying to you is that I believe people are more and more ready because they have been more and more, what they hear, been told, have been lies by the news. And I'm not talking about necessarily science. I'm just talking about in general. And I think maybe we can, if we talk about things in this historical sense and get to people to critically think along the way, then I think maybe we have something. So yeah, but I agree. I was a little depressed myself. I said, what are we doing? I mean, we're not going to change anything. But of course, we don't want to think that at all. You got to think that will change. But
I certainly think, following from what you say, David, that we can tap into two sources maybe. One is I do see certain groups, if you like, which will express critical thinking. They're normally silenced, but they may appear, if you look at a video on YouTube or something which was mildly critical of the current thinking, you find most of the comments are supporting it. So there are groups who want to be critical. And the second thing I'd say is that individuals, when I address an individual, when I maybe get one or two persons in a room, I generally can get some sort of hearing, even though they might think I'm a crackpot. It's when you get a group of 10 people or something that they won't listen to you at all. So the majority of people are conditioned, but right. On an individual level, I think there is some potential there. And then there's this very small minority who are already amenable to persuasion.
No, that's very interesting. I'm not really thought of that. It's true. You know what that comes from? It's just group think, right? But it's not even group think. It's just the behavior of animals. I mean, it's
mass
not even
hysteria,
because
herd instinct.
Well, I mean, it's really true because on one of the things when I was on a jury for first degree murder. I mean, I don't know how I got on it, but because my politics, I wouldn't have never got on it. But what happened was you learn the psychology of gangs. This happened to be a gang called the Young Assassins. You can imagine wasn't a great gang. So what about it was, though, is you learn from police officers when you get gang members by themselves, they're cowardice, really. I mean, they're not those big guys. You get one by themselves. They're not going to like have 10 guys go up on pop them. They're going to pop out their guns and says, hey, come at me. I'm going to get you. They know when you isolate a one person, it's like you have a chance. There's not that peer pressure around them. But the peer pressure, even if it's something that one person puts a doubt into it, all of a sudden everybody has that same doubt, and they that and that and that, and now everybody switches. Even people who are amenable to be critical thinkers switch because they get it's like if we were all together and I said, what are you talking? Relativity is really right. And maybe they respect me and they all look at me. Yeah, well, maybe it is right. And then everybody all of a sudden changes. But yeah, I think that's really good. Okay. Any other comments before I get somebody else or?
No, perhaps I'll leave it at that. I think it was an interesting introduction to thinking about the whole.
Yeah, we just sort of stimulate thought. But thank you very much. All right. Oops, back to the wrong person. I got to learn how to do this. There we go. Who else is here? We have Franklin. Hey, Franklin, how are you? I got my dad. Do you want to come up and talk your opinions about where are we? Where are we going? You want to raise your hand if you want to see. Okay, I see Franklin. I will get Franklin up. My dad. Okay, I'll go Franklin. There you go. Franklin, how are you? Long time no see. And you're muted.
Okay, there we go. Yes. Have to always unmute myself.
Good to see you.
David, I feel your pain, right? I mean, my question as our organization goes is, why is it that, I don't know, we're not more successful? Because you think we'd be doing all the right things, right?
Right.
We're on social media, but there's only like 14 people watching us on YouTube and Facebook.
No, we have 27 right now. 30. We range between 30 and 50 live. So
But you'd think there'd be a few more, I would think.
Yeah, it's really funny because I've heard that before, even about my YouTube channel. I'd be talking, I get the one, I have some popular videos, right? One of them's about dark matter, where, it's just it's the gravitational field, stupid. We treat them all as spheres, blah, blah, blah. And you have people down there says, you should have millions of viewers. This stuff is really interesting, what you're talking about. Of course, it's not me. It's not like Dave de Hilster talking about my theory. But people who recognize that there are problems finally, they're going, wow, this is great. Why aren't we getting more? Then you get in conspiracy theories. Are we being, throttled, as they say? Is YouTube keeping our views down? What is it? I don't know.
I don't know. See, I had conspiracy theories like that myself. It's like, I put out a bunch of videos and it's like, oh, I got about like 20 viewers or something like that. It's just pathetic.
Yeah.
I put a lot of effort into doing those things and trying, doing all the right things, right? Making shorter videos, simpler things. But when you search for like the particular topic, what is magnetism or something like that, I'm like video suggested number 300. You literally have to go through like 56 pages of videos before you find the video that is exactly my title of my video, right? It's like what?
Yeah, I mean, but it is a process.
Right?
It takes time. The more views you get, the more subscribers you get, the more you get, etc. I think one of the things is Farouk. I know him. He's been following my dad and I's book. He's got our book. One of the things is he's saying people are not interested to learn science, and I think part of that is because it's too complicated. The systems we have, the way I explain it to the average person is they said, look, the universe, we know a lot of data about it, right? One of the things is we have an immense amount of data. One of the talks I gave in one of my theses is about science where it is. We're in science, we're in model revolution right now. If you go in the Kuhn cycle, model revolution means you have problems with the current model, and there's so much data out there that there are several models that could explain it. Well, the problem is the universe is so complicated. We have so many people writing different equations for it. You've got equations in the EE world, the electrical engineering world. You got them in the mechanical engineering world. You've got them in particle physics world. You got all kinds of things. You got chemistry. They've got their own set of equations, and it's really, really complicated. Yet, no one's telling us what a magnetic field is physically. No one's telling us what that is.
Key, like our organization. I think that maybe people are a little bit not interested in like learning all that really complicated stuff, but when you think about it, we're still pretty much in the dark ages of science.
Yeah.
We don't know what gravity is. We don't know how magnets work. We have no idea,
Yeah, we don't know what light is. And when you tell people that, they go, wait a minute, we do. And I go, wait a minute, what do we know? I said, we know how a body is affected by magnetism. We know how a body is affected by gravity, but we can't, what is it? And then when you ask them, they go, oh yeah, it's curving space-time, right? It's quantum foam. But I think part of it, the reality of our group is we have people that are trying to do this. Here's a person stumbled on this a person who's new. Thanks for putting me on to More Dissident Scientists. Great. And you guys know Rubitel. Absolutely, I know that guy. He's, what's his called? This Sky Scholar? That guy has he's got a lot of subscribers. I think he's up to 50,000 subscribers. So he is I think he works in the radiology department of Ohio State University. So that's good.
Yeah, but I'm kind of wondering, are people not paying attention to us because we're, we are all literally crazy,
No, I think part of it is, there's a couple of reasons maybe. That's a good question, Franklin. That's a very good question. I think part of it is getting people who can communicate well. It's not easy. I mean, you're a person that can communicate pretty well. I've watched your videos. Not everybody who is good at something can teach it, right? Not everybody has a personality that someone's going to say, oh yeah, that person's inspiring when they talk. And then you got the opposite side. You got Neil deGrasse Tyson, whose ego is bigger than the galaxy, who gets out there and makes all these pontifications. But when you ask him the simple question, could Einstein be wrong? The answer to that question, of course, is yes, forever. Could Newton be wrong? Yes, everyone can be wrong. We're less wrong than other maybe generations. But we have one side who are the prolific people out there. Neil, I don't know if you knew Sabine Hoffenfelder. I don't remember her last name, but she wrote, she's the one now that has a YouTube channel. She went to almost no one paying attention to her YouTube channel because she was talking about more esoteric things, to now she decided to become the science evangelist. It's gone so far away from her really trying to create critical thinkers that her last video, go to her Sabine Hussenfelder, go to her YouTube. The last one was, are plastics bad for you? She went from being in the Hadron Collider and writing a book called Lost in Math, literally going, wow, we've got another person who is a dissident scientist coming from within the science community saying they're lost in math. Right. I mean, look at the title, right? There's no physicality. And then so she gets on the YouTube and tries to and guess what happens? Like us, what happens? No one's listening. So what does she do? She starts talking about things that are just normal stuff, saying what people want to hear, and basically become a science evangelist, meaning you and I, for instance, can describe even light, even in the sense of the mainstream physics, better than the average person can, right? So if you get in a conversation in a room and Franklin starts talking about some of these subjects, just in the mainstream view, people are going to go, oh, that's really interesting. You know what you're talking about. And so, yeah, but if you start, getting into what we talk about in the criticisms, they're lost because they don't even know anything's lost and they don't even know how it even got lost. And so here's a person that basically, in my opinion, sold out. And, I don't want to say that, but in my opinion, they did. So.
Yeah, but our question is, how do we become more successful? And I don't think we want to go that direction.
Right, but I think let me put this up there because we're going to put some more people up here. Oops, oh, what did I do? Just close it. What did I do? Oh, sorry about that. I hit my keyboard with my hands and doing stupid things. So let me do this again. Sorry. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get my slides up again. And here we go.
It's like you ask the questions like, what do we do with our conferences? And it's like, it would be nice if we could get back to the conferences where we just have, 40, 50 people attending to make that, worthwhile. But it just doesn't seem to be happening, I suppose. So.
Yeah, and I can't push buttons correctly. Why is it doing that? Okay, I'm just going to have to leave it on this, folks. I'm not going to waste people's time. So this is one of the things I was talking about, which is one of the things I think you would be more, amenable to, and that is new directions. So I've done research, and the research is very clear. My father's videos, Jeff Yee's videos, my videos that have general topics that when they are teaching about something that they're going to talk about that is in the dissident realm, meaning they talk about everything. For instance, ether. The ether video by Jeff Yee's got a lot of views, tens of thousands of views, but he ends up getting a person interested. But what we need to do is if we have something and people are watching it and they get to the point where we start saying, well, yeah, we have no physicality, like my dad talks about it. He talks about the Newton's particle model of light, corpuscles. He talks about the Maxwell's, perpendicular magnetic field and electromagnetic field, that those equations. It's a wave. Then you get photon, it's a wave and a particle, Einstein. And then you have other one is ether. And then you have my dad's wave theory, which is our waves of particles that move at the speed of light. All those are different things, but if we get people to that point, and if we do it in a way that they think they are being taught history. I think That's what I was thinking, Franklin, is we've got you and I and everybody, Ian, James Keene, Bob Gray, Dennis Allen, everybody, Farouk, Adam Lohr, everybody, John Hodge, everybody I'm seeing here today, we all have a bigger perspective of what science is. We've gone beyond that. That is, if we were teaching architecture and I was teaching the history of architecture and I'm talking about the buildings through time, and then I get to the point where I have investigated and I have a whole new building technique, which is 3D printing, let's say, then we get to that. A person's going to see that as just another step in an evolution. Now, if we present what we are doing and not say it's the right answer, but it's a possible new answer, that is what you are working on, you and your model, which is the electron proton together as an ether, I believe, right? If that, what is better about that? Well, it's trying to give physicality to something we don't have physicality. Now, it doesn't mean that the person has to believe you or agree with you. But what it means is that if we do these videos where we talk about the history of it and get to the point of what we know, just as if that's what my father did the other night, this week. He did that, I just hit me like a ton of bricks. I said, that's the way we should do videos like that. That is, what I'm thinking is if we get people on our channel, like you, you're going to take a topic and you're going to put together slides, and it's going to be the history of this topic. And you are then going to present not only even yours, but other people's solutions, but do it in a dissident point of view, not in the condescending way, but bring up questions. When my dad was talking to this group of complete non-science people, they followed the whole thing. And they go, that's really great. I didn't know all that. Because we have a different perspective. When we talk about Maxwell and his wave equations, we don't talk about it as if that's accepted, even though that's what's accepted so somewhat today. We talk about it as on the way to still not knowing about the physicality of what it really is. And that here are some attempts today of knowing that.
Now, I wanted to ask you, because as dissidents, we all have different kind of ideas.
Right.
And of course, one of the main criticisms of our group is that, everyone's selling and nobody's buying, which I think is absolutely true. That's because I'm the only one who's right, kind of, attitude.
Right, absolutely.
But I don't know to the extent, what do you think? Does that hurt us?
No.
That's just a reality. So
yeah, no. But here's the way I would sell it, because the way I sell it, and I tell people, my friends, if we ever get in this conversation, it's just like, here's the deal. We are in model revolution, basically. There's so much data now that we have available. We have basically the entire knowledge of the human race. We have what was the Alexander Library, but of everything ever on our phones, for goodness sakes. So we have all this data. We know we don't know what these things really are. And we have people trying to get at it. Here's one idea. It's valid. Ether. Look, I don't believe ether to be right, but is it valid? Yeah. Could I be wrong? Yeah. Could ether be right? Yeah. We have to have that ourselves. The problem is when we have a person who's worked 20, 30 years on their own theory, they're going to be very impassioned about it. They're going to be very believing about all the things it can do. And of course, if you listen to that enthusiasm from one person, they're going to be saying, the universe works this way, and I'll tell you how. And they're not going to talk about the history. They're going to say, oh, no, that's all wrong. This is right. We all have to embrace this. What we really need to do as an organization is take that theory, put it into its context, say that, yes, it can be right. And everybody should look at it, because you can't throw away a really good idea that somebody's worked on 30 years. And plus, I always say to people, the moment you say you don't want to look at somebody else's theory that you think is crazy is the moment you throw out maybe an idea that you could use to come up with. If I did that, my dad and I would have no book. Because we standing on the shoulders of Borchardt and Deneau and Lesage and Newton, all these people, all of them. And so, I agree with you. If you look at when you have a person here, that's why I think this, now we're speaking out loud, we're brainstorming, right? I'm brainstorming. You brought up a really good point. Our organization's purpose really, I think, instead, I'm just thinking out loud now, is not only to support these people, even like yourself, like myself. My father and I have a model. You have a model. Jeffy has a model. Who's right? We don't know. And the idea is to have them out there. But not only to support those models and say, look, you have the right. And we have the necessity to listen to you, especially if it's a decent model, because it needs to have people hear it. The other part is to let people know the history of why these things are necessary. We don't do that as an organization, and I think that's what I'm saying is in this thing that I came up a couple days ago in that slide I put up there. That's maybe what we need to do. We got to teach more of the context around these things. So we have, for instance, 1 week we'll have a person, and then we talk about that. So maybe each time you talk, like you're going to talk about your ether. Okay. Well, what we'll do is we'll have a little short refresher on what ether is, maybe a couple slides that we do before ether talks, that people get an idea of where this is and why it's needed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because one of the
like I said, I guess I feel your pain. I'm just not. I guess I'm not quite sure. Why is it more people aren't interested? I mean, I don't.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons, because they don't know why it's happening.
I don't think people are not interested in science. I think most people generally.
No, they are, but they don't know there's problems with it. They don't know that. And they don't know the history. The history they've been told tells them everything's right. Just like Ian was saying, right? Ian was saying, this is settled science.
So it would seem that we're doing all the right things in marketing.
Well, I don't think we are yet. I don't think we are. If we were, Franklin, we'd be doing a lot better, right? The thing is, you gotta
I think
look.
that would be my I guess my final comment is that I'd like to see us do a lot better. We should have a lot more people, hundreds of people, in our weekly things. We should have 50 to 100 people showing up to our conferences. But instead, we're kind of struggling and going like, well, it's not really worth having a conference. There's only 20 people showing up, and is it really worth doing all these? Because it's a lot of work. You've been doing a great job getting speakers and stuff like that. Is it worth organizing all that if we get 20, 30 people?
No, I know you and I
know there have been other groups that I'm associated, like there's an APEC, which is explicitly on propulsion. And, they get like 100 people on their weekly conferences. So that's what I'd be looking for.
If we were to do a topic like, global warming, we get a ton of people. Now, the problem is, the thing is that I think what we can do is, one of the things Ian said was very interesting, and was when I talk, and I think it probably happens to you and many of us, especially people who can communicate it a little bit better. Some people who have their own theory, they're not so bigger picture. You are, I am, Ian is, other people, my dad has that ability, some other people do too, probably everybody in some sense. But when I talk to a person one-on-one, it's like you have ability to get them to where they need to be, right? Like if you say to someone, I've got a model of ether, then what's ether? Oh, ether's about light. Oh, what's light? There's a problem. And then you go in, you will backstory it. It's like we are not giving enough backstory to why we're doing these things. People walk in.
We need to get more people who aren't wedded to their own theories. Just more people who are just open and are willing to support other people's theories, because people who have their own theories, you're kind of stuck on your own theory. So, but it'd be nice. I think people who are like me, who are stuck on their own theory, would like to have some support and say either yay or nay or something, rather than kind of hearing from all the other people who just have their own theories and refuse to.
I mean, Adam Lohr says it's sort of what we're saying here is right. It's hard to find people who are both open-minded about alternatives to mainstream science, but not so strongly committed to their own preferred model, and that they won't look at other ideas. Well, I always tell people, I mean, that's something I constantly pound in everybody's heads. When I get a book or I hear somebody's got a new model, I immediately start looking at it. I mean, even if we have our own model of the entire universe, the whole thing. And yet when I see a model come out, I go like, whoa, I'm going to look at that because somebody may have a better model. Somebody may have cracked it way better than a model we came up with. And I think the problem is like, and what you have to also understand is there are going to be different people. And you're right. We've got to find more people. And I think if we get the curiosity up in a good way, if we can do that in a more generic way, like if we have somebody talking about light, we do that. In the beginning, maybe what I need to do is come up with an intro of each one of these videos. The reason I talk about what I do in the beginning of each one is because someone comes into our organization, every video is like their first day here, right? And so, yeah, I mean, it's something we pound into it, but maybe what I can do is more this historic stuff. So anyways, oh, my dad was here, but he had to go pick up my daughter. But that's a good comment here. Here's let's see.
Yeah, so Sue else is here.
Yeah.
Good to talk to you about that.
Yeah, thank you very much. All right. So anyways, I'm sorry. I haven't done this in a while, and doing an open forum like this. Let's see. We got another one by Adam Lohr. Let's see. I think it's got everything there. Also, if you're not an ether guy, or if you don't buy the concept of expansion tectonics, for example, you may not put much time into watching ether stuff or expansion stuff. Exactly. That's exactly right. Even though I watch them all, I don't know. I'm just so curious about everything. So I've got Dennis Allen. I've seen him raise his hand, so we'll take a look at that. And I will also be looking through the. Hey, Dennis, how are you?
Good. Can you hear me?
Yes, I do.
I would say I like your idea of physicality being important. And Professor Alexander Dmitriev of St. Petersburg, Russia, wrote a book called Physical Gravity, where he put the word physical in because he didn't want to think people think it was another mathematical theory like general relativity. And I've never been real good at physicality because I've been trained as a mathematician. But I think even more important is honesty and integrity than physicality. So many people nowadays don't value the truth. In fact, they think they can manufacture their own truth. So they're not really tuned in to your talks and so on, because that's just your truth. And we have our truth, and so we'll part ways. We won't watch the video. We won't watch the Saturday morning meeting.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple things going on. One is there is the media specifically is trying to get us to believe and fight amongst ourselves constantly. People in power want us fighting, and they want us to say, one side says there's global warming, the other side says there's not global warming. They want us to fight. They want us to dig in, and because the people in power, that makes us not pay attention to them, as why they do even worse things to our society. I think that happens a lot. So there's a lot of media out there stoking the flames of people fighting each other. This is a technique that people in power have been doing for thousands of years. So I think part of this idea that all of us don't look at things, and there are people who decide and they decide on those things. I think a lot of that how do you say, idea that we see, if we see the news saying finding this person who thinks the earth's flat, and see, there you go, they coming up with their own rules. I think if you talk to the average person, they really don't think that. I think the media spreads those ideas, but when I talk to people in general, I think the attitude's fine. If we don't pay attention to the media barrage we get about science climate change deniers and all that, I mean, I think we need to sort of cut through that and say, okay, we have to assume that the average person is going to give something a chance. I think this idea that there's a large portion of the human race right now that doesn't believe in science, I don't believe that. I think that's a thing that the people in power are trying to push a narrative, and we waste our time on that a lot. I think what we want to do is think, when I talk with, like Ian says, when you talk to a person one-on-one and you ask them, are you curious about the universe? Don't you want to know the physicality of what a magnetic field really is? And people really will say, yeah. So I think what we need to do is try to stand on those kinds of ideas so that we can then get them to a place where, people who have different ideas. But I agree with you, physicality. That's why my dad and I wrote the book. We said we're going to give physicality, right or wrong, to everything in the universe, from quantum down and infinitely up. I agree. The physicality part is something I think that a lot of people are emphasizing. I don't know if you know Jeff Yee's work. He's younger. He's in his 50s. He's all physicality. Is the idea that there's magical pluses and minuses and fields and magnetic fields without any physicality. This is ludicrous in a lot of our minds. So I agree with you. But I think the perception in the community that we have large portions of the population that don't believe in science. I think that's just a narrative that people in power have been trying to say all the time.
Well, they believe in science, but they have no commitment to honesty and integrity. If it's financially advisable to do something, they do it. Whether it's honest or anything, or whether it's ethical. Most people nowadays are sort of semi-hackers, I think. They're looking for a hack that'll get them ahead.
Well, yeah. I mean, unfortunately, we live in a society where profit is the most important thing in a lot of societies right now, and it's just destroying everything. I mean, it used to be that people cared about other people, and it's just, and it's funny because if you look at the general population, that's what we have to do. We have to try to care about each other. I mean, here in the United States, our healthcare system is so broken. We're the only country in the world that have people going on bankrupt because of health problems. And so what do people do? They help each other. They make GoFundMe's. So we need to be in a critical thinking society. We need to be in a caring society. And those kinds of things have been lost. That's for sure. So, anyways, I agree that we need to emphasize more physicality for sure. And I think that's the thing that my dad and I are doing with our model, right or wrong. And so we're trying, and people are interested because you get them thinking, and what is light really? What is gravity really? It's pushing us down, but what is it really? It's not just an attraction. It's got to be some force. So. Okay. I know that I saw, thank you. Do you have any other comments or?
No, it's just that I don't see this ending well. Things are getting worse, as Ian said, and it's not just here, it's all in the Western world. And
yeah, it can be depressing. I agree, Dennis. It really can be. And I think at times if you go down that sort of path, if you look at where it's going, you get depressed. But one of the great things is, and I think Ian, again, I'll go back to Ian said, this whole thing of the one-on-one. When you sit down and really talk to a human being, you're on a beach somewhere, in Ireland, you're standing there, somebody else you meet, and you start talking about the universe, looking around and all the things, and they're curious about the universe. You really have a way more open, critical thinking conversation than you normally would have if you were in a group of other people, because you people at that point, it'd be like it's like you're almost in a crisis in some sense. You're by yourselves. If you are by yourself in an area and something would go wrong with me, this person better help me. There's this bond because you're two sentient beings standing in this place all alone with no sentient people around you, and that seems to lower all these problems, all these social things, and you're really there to discuss. And people seem, if it's funny because if you talk to people, most revolutions start at a grassroots level, and I know that once you get people curious about these things, they really do come back. They start to get it, and that's what's happened. A good example is plant-based diets. I reversed my heart disease, my rheumatoid arthritis, and my allergies. They're gone. My history of heart disease in my family was not genetic because I changed my diet and it went away. I got literally medical proof. When I did that 8 years ago, if I said I was a whole plant-based diet, people would look at me like I'm ate baby children or something. It was like terrible. Now, when people find out that eating healthy, eating plant-based diets, you don't get chronic diseases, all of a sudden, what's happening? The doctor doesn't tell you that because they want to make money giving you all this stuff, right? Well, where's the change coming from? It's coming from the people. People get fed up. They go, I'm tired of hearing about Higgs bosons and all this crazy space-time. I want to find somebody who's trying to get a real answer to that question. And so I think to your worry that we're going in the wrong direction, I don't think so. I think we are in a period of actually everyone during COVID has sat back and said, am I happy with my life? What I'm being told the truth? And I think we're at a place where people are much more amenable to critical thinking of things that they thought they were told were true but aren't. I mean, when I'm told by my doctor that I'm going to die of a heart attack and it's in my genetics and just to wait for it and do the best I can, and then I go and I change my diet and it disappears, what's that about? What happens? Does my doctor lie to me? So anyways, I think your whole idea that we're going down the wrong path, I'm here to tell you, I don't think so. I think we're in a point of change, but I don't think it's no return. I think it's going to be a change for the better. So, okay, any other comments before you go?
No, that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dennis. Thank you so much. So again, we have the green room open. I saw that Harry Ricker was there, but he bumped out. I either said something that he didn't like or... Harry's a great guy. I like him. He's no bones about him. Put some more comments up here. Relativity is still being taught as if every part is beyond question. Einstein is still a god whom we cannot question. Very much very true. And if you're watching this and you don't believe that, go to beyondmainstream.org, click on problems and relativity, and you'll read things about PhDs in special relativity who, when they applied it to a problem, it failed. So yes. Let's see. I'm going to look at some more here. Balanced diet is better. No. I would totally dispute you on that. That's not balanced diet means you're eating. No, science does not say that. A balanced diet is a way of the industry to get us to eat whatever they want us to eat. So look it up. Go to nutritionfacts.org. China study. Read the China study. It's almost a billion people who are studied, and they definitely have correlations about exactly what we eat, what is good for you. So take a look at it. Do more research. I've done a lot of research on that, but that's a different day. Let's see, agree with exams. People there, again, I got Eric Reed or Dennis Jr. Franklin, Bob Gray is here. Bob, James Keene, I see you in. So, hey, there we go. Well said, David. Well, somebody thought I said something interesting. That's not my goal. The goal is to keep people interested in talking. As for trying to get students, okay, here's something. Roger Anderton, really like, he's got some videos out there. You check him out on YouTube. I've watched some of them, very interesting work. As for trying to get students wanting lecturers to rethink their courses, lecturers don't want that. I will dispute that. It turns out that a lot of lecturers do want that, but for them to keep their jobs, they can't do it. I've got example of people I know who had that problem. One guy was in Brazil. He was an engineering teacher who made the students, if they pick a topic like the Big Bang, they had to write for the Big Bang and against the Big Bang. He did that for 3 years, and he said a third of the students loved it. A third of the students just did it because they had to do it and went on, didn't care. And a third of the students were really, really mad to eventually, after 3 years of doing that kind of model for this only one part of one engineering class, his students literally went to the dean of the university and said, this guy's teaching us blasphemy, more or less. And he was told not to do that. And yep, you're right in that sense. But I don't think it's because lecturers don't want to do that. They're forced not to do it. So... okay, but good. I think here's another one from him. I queried that issue with relativity lecturers, and the answer was they get paid to teach relativity. Exactly. You need to pass their exam, so you won't teach the way you suggest. Absolutely. But it doesn't mean that we can't do it. And I think that's one of the things we need to do. I started this idea of a university online, but of course, an accredited university is different. But to have a person teaching these things, what we can do is instead of talking about what's wrong with relativity, we need to, as an organization, get us will say, Ian, you're going to talk about the electromagnetic fields and the history of those, and telling about some of the new models that go into that. We need to prepare these things and have those available so that people can see them. Okay, here's some question. Oh, good. Somebody does that. When will you be making the climate change video? Well, it's not a bad idea to address these things, but the way I would do it and the way I would say on these things is because I'm of the camp of this, I believe we're destroying the planet. That's a fact. If you think we're not destroying the planet, we are. We have many examples. Whether or not climate change is the way we want, it's disputable, because we can barely predict what 5 days in the future with weather. How can we claim to predict the climate in 30 years? Now, yeah, we have ideas and models, but we need to make it an open debate. That's what we need to do. I always say to people, I focus on us destroying the planet. It's one of the reasons I don't think that the way we do animal farming and destroy the planet, it's destroying the ocean, all that stuff washes out in the ocean, just absolutely destroys all the feces and all that go out there. But again, the idea is what we need to do is, maybe that's a good idea. If we do on climate change and say that's open to debate. Say right up front, yeah, I guess I'm going to do one. Because, yeah, we'll get a lot of views and people into this direction. We always have to say that it is a theory. It can be backed up by data, and all of us are free to question every single idea, model, theory, everything taught in school. We should be able to question. And I think that's something. So I didn't want to do that. Now I'm thinking that we need to do something like that. Yes, Halton Arp certainly tried, but yes, he too was kicked out for spouting unacceptable physics. Absolutely. I won't do the nutrition thing. I'm not going to talk about that on this channel. There's just so much data about it now. I will say to everyone, if you want to know about nutrition, go to nutritionfacts.org. They read every English language nutritional study out there, and they weed out the bad ones. And this idea, for those people who think you can't get enough nutrition from plants and fruits, ask the elephant, the rhinoceros, the gorilla, ask the cow, and ask the beef, and the pig you're talking about. Well, maybe pigs eat meat, but they all get all the nutrition they need. So, anyways, off that there. Let's see. Questions, and if you want to do a question or comment, just do this. Let me put that up there. Here we go. Throw those in the chat. Start with question or comment, and I know to put you up there. The private chat, unfortunately, I can't put up there. Here's another one. How does expansion tectonics affect climate change? Could be an interesting angle. I don't think it changes. If you were to ask James Maxwell, I think he would agree with me. It doesn't really have too much there. So I think the way to do it, really, Adam, is to have people get interested in whatever floats their boat. It could be light, it could be gravity, it could be the magnetism, it could be expansion tectonics, and it gets them into the other things. I think all of us are sort of doing that. So, okay. So what else here? I've got Eric Reeder is there. Hi, Eric. How are you? Did you want to come on and say something? No, he's there. But Eric, if you haven't seen, look up Eric Reeder. Absolutely brilliant scientist. Does some of the most amazing lab work I've seen. We had a talk with Eric Reeder, and he talks about how ridiculous, and I agree with him, of quantum mechanics is. So if you haven't checked that out, check out his work. Brilliant mind, brilliant man. Okay, I'm going to bring up another person who, the only two people who have the totally correct model of the universe and everyone else is wrong, which is me and my father. And I'm joking, folks. It's a joke. It's a joke. Actually, we probably doubt our model. I doubt my model about 50 times a day.
Wait a minute. You've been lying to me. You making me do all this work and it doesn't
No.
mean anything?
I will tell you one thing about my father. There's no way I'll get him to believe anything. Look, I spent 8 years making the movie called Einstein Wrong. My dad was in the movie Einstein Wrong. It took me 8 years. He started year number 2. We get to the opening night, the premiere of the film in Long Beach, in the art theater, movie theater. And I turned to my dad after the discussion. He goes, "Dad, so do you believe Einstein's wrong?" And what did he say? "Oh, I haven't looked at it, so I can't answer that." And after that, my film tanked. I got thumbs down on Ebert and what's his name?
Siskel. Ebert and Siskel.
Yeah, who are both dead now. But anyways, they gave us back. So what do you want to talk about?
Well, when I left, I had to go run an errand and rescue my daughter and my granddaughter. And so I bailed out just at the time you were talking about, the scope, the direction of our conferences. There's kind of a conflict with people, and I get that myself because, number one, I want to go out there and I want to hype the model. I want to explain it and get people to understand it. But as soon as you do that, sometimes you turn off half the house. Oh, there's Bob again. He's gonna talk about his theory and heard some of this before. And people lose interest. Then there's those others who really want to do the same thing. They want to come on and hype their ideas. I'm going to tell you what's right, and you get the comment from most people. Dave, you've said this over and over again. Yeah, everybody's selling and nobody's listening.
Right.
Yet there are things in the book, for example, and I'm going to use the one on the candle, but that is in the book to help explain something about light. Is what part is the main thrust of my talk the other night to a small group, and I also presented that as a paper at the conference 3 or 4 years ago, called the candle, the light bulb, and the radio. Well, in that discussion about the candle brings out some ideas that can stimulate anybody to understand light in maybe a way they hadn't understood it before, and yet looks to be very technologically, scientifically sound. And so, I think that type of discussion about light is useful. There's another one about gravity. I don't think anybody's confused so much about the speed of gravity, but there was an experiment done back in 2012. It was reported in January of 2013 by a group of Chinese scientists that did a measurement of the speed of gravity. And I have the paper somewhere, and it would be an excellent paper for someone just to pick up, because it's something that is out there that most people might not know about. And when you read the paper or someone would explain it, you learn something more that's beneficial to everybody.
Now, I'm gonna interrupt you here a little bit. One of the things that got me in this whole idea of trying to teach people the history of science with a critical eye, right? Because if you teach if you go up in front of, like you did with light, you spent most of the time, almost what, 2% of the 2% of the time on our model, right?
Yeah, I wasn't teaching the model so much, but I did bring it up at the end.
No, but what I'm saying is, though, is what you did was I saw a presentation that what it allowed people to do is for them to even know what you did, your particular solution to the wave particle duality. If for them to get to that point, they don't know about all the rest of it. So there's no context. In fact, one of the things in our book from was Andreas Cease. No, it was not Andreas Cease. It was what's his name from the guy I was talking about who was
Ionel? Ionel?
No, not Ionel Deneau. It's the guy who suggested the front cover be our diagram, and then
Louise, Sodburn.
Right.
Yeah.
This was the guy who was teaching in the university in Rio de Janeiro and was told not to allow them to have people be able to refute the Big Bang, etc. Well, he was the one who said in our book to put a section on all the history of people trying to give physicality to the universe. And because of that, people who read our book now, that's one of the things they said, I really like that part because I didn't know where we were. I thought we knew all this stuff, and you find out that even Einstein, when he was talking about even light, it still wasn't settled. So I think when I saw your lecture on talking about light in general, we don't do that. We assume everybody has looked at everything, and we don't care about that because that's
Yeah, but see, there's things out there that our members have seen. And when you as a person read something and you learn something new for you, that could be of interest for everybody, however it applies to your own ideas or not. To refocus back to that. I think that what you said about some of the earlier conversations, people were bringing up these issues, talking about it, and then you had a dialogue as to what the answer, So if we could,
we need to do issue-driven things, basically.
Yeah,
we need to talk about like speed of gravity. I mean, but give a history of it. I think one of the problems of what we do naturally is because people have a study about one thing and then they talk about that one thing, and knowing people like ourselves have read all kinds of things. But one of the things about the internet is when they come and see this video, people get tired of me saying the same things in the beginning. But there's one thing I know is the first video they're going to see could be this one, and if they don't have no idea what we're doing, they're not going to come back. But if they watch that video and they go, oh, there's a whole group of this. Oh, there's problems in science. And they give people, oh, I get it. And so it's a lot easier for them to understand because of the context. Maybe what we need to do is do more of that, but in general science, almost like, talking to an average person with a different view.
Yeah, so what we need to do is solicit areas like in the area of light, gravity, magnetism, electrostatics, and solicit ideas of things that people have learned that they found interesting, that helped with their model, and get them to talk about that more than talking about the overall model, because when I talk about circuits, I'm going to talk the very first one. I've already had a paper on it, but to hear that again, to hear how the flow of particles through a resistor acts and how voltage drops correlates to that. That's new information. Now, whether they agree with that part or not, but I don't know. Maybe the members could forward some of these ideas that they think they've learned through their research. But that's the other thing I wanted to mention. By doing your research, by going on the internet and studying the thing you're really interested in, you're going to stumble on some stuff that people will find interesting. Rather than holding that in and keeping it to yourself, science gets moved forward by disseminating the information. Flamsteed, John Flamsteed withheld his data from Newton because he thought his data was more important than Newton's equation, and so refused to give it to Newton. Well, all that does is kill science. So do the research, you find information. If you find it interesting, bring it up on a Saturday, give a talk on it. People will start listening to that. So I think that's worth doing, and plain worth doing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think this has been really good, this whole discussion, and it really a lot of this idea came from seeing that talk you gave, Dad, because I think one of the things you and I had to do, we're forced to do, and we're going to give a talk here on our model. When we had our book, I don't know if people understand, when we had our book signing, our launch of our book, we had friends and family over, basically, right? There was one person there who had read the book. One. That was Robert Berger. The other people had no idea. My wife had no idea. My daughter had no idea. My friends had no idea what this book was about. So we were forced to explain things and in a way that was to the very layman, the exact layman. I had to go from zero to something, and I think that is one of the things we don't do. We got to get people to do it. And when we how do we do that in an organized way? If we don't have the one-on-one that we all can sort of, maneuver. If somebody comes up to Franklin and starts talking about gravity, Franklin's going to be really an interesting person to talk to for this person, because they're going to know a lot more about it. It's funny, I guess I'm sort of getting at one of the things I've always known since my movie is that when we dissidents who know and looked at gravity and light and magnetism and the Big Bang and plate tectonics, we know a lot. And we know a lot about the history of those things, because for us to get to the point where we can come up with new ideas or read new ideas from other people, which is most of the time we're doing, we're not coming up with these things ourselves. To get ourselves there, we have to understand this thing at a different level. And when I talk with people about this, they are fascinated, not because I'm fascinating. It's because I spent the time to really look at it in this total curiosity, critical thinking way. And that lots of us do that. So my suggestion would be for us to come up with a list of talks that we want to do, and give and have people hone those down, make slides, and actually have input from other people, so that we make these things in a way that if a person comes in who's curious about the world, we're not coming at them with it's wrong, blah blah blah, and we're coming up with them in a way as if we were going to lead them through a conversation if they were one-on-one with us. That's all. Okay. We'll see you next week, and everybody should have their presentations ready. So no, I'm kidding. Anyways, before I go, it's 4 minutes before the end of the 2 hours. Anybody want to make any closing or comments in the comments here? Let's see. Let me see if I have some here. If lecturers really wanted the courses rethought, then they would feed that up to their academic hierarchy, but as far as I'm aware, they don't. Yeah, what really happens to change something is a critical mass. There's got to be a critical mass that changes something. And it also, though, can be a one time and one person. One of the things that happened in whole plant-based, we know plant-based diets are the healthiest diets. We know that. There's scientific facts. China study 1 million people. We know that. But how do you get it change? Because we've got an industry that makes lots of money on us being sick. Well, it turns out that we don't teach nutrition to anybody in school in the United States. Nobody. One university in Detroit, Michigan, now teaches plant-based diet to their doctors. And why was that? One person, like Roger Anderson, went to the faculty, said, this is ridiculous. We have all this studies, all this evidence. People are reversing chronic diseases. Diabetes 2 is pretty much a mouth-borne. You get it from eating junk. Heart disease didn't exist until we started eating all this junk. It only started in the beginning of the 20th century. He gave them all this data. And when they saw that, and there were enough people that also backed them up, finally, one place does that. Then when one place does it, then another place does it. You know, I don't know what it is, but we got to get to that critical mass. And if we can get people in the same conversation of one-on-one in a beach in Ireland to doing that worldwide on the internet, maybe we have something there. So, okay. So I think we are pretty much done for today. We're at 12:58. I want to thank everybody who participated. And I want to thank everybody who's been supporting this all the way. I know I've been absent, but that usually happens because I go with my gut feeling something wasn't right. Had these ideas of the conference, didn't know really what to do, what should we do, and I think it's a time for us to step back and really look at where we are, what we're doing before we just simply blindly keep doing the same things and not getting any different results. So I think we have our website at naturalphilosophy.org. You can go to that. Let's see, I've got the websites here. Here we go. The two websites, naturalphilosophy.org and, of course, youtube.dissidentscience.com. Make sure, if you really enjoyed this video, if you're watching this recorded, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. That's how we get more views. And all of you who are members of the CMPS, who don't care about social media and want more people here and wonder why if you come here no one's watching, it's because you have to do the way you applaud in the world today isn't with your hands, it's with your mouse. So take your mouse, click on the little like button. The more we get that, the algorithms tell people that this is more interesting than not. So please, I know there's a lot of people who didn't even like email out there. So please do that. Do us a favor, subscribe. Oh, I don't have a Gmail account. Get one, help us out. That's the way the world works. And if you have really great work and great ideas, they're not going to listen to you either unless you're out there. So you can't expect other people to do things that you're not doing as well. So please help out. We need it. It's vital support. And please, again, go to naturalphilosophy.org, become a member, $5 a month, 35 bucks a year, whatever you can help, because we do have expenses for everything online. So thank you so much. And we will head on out here. And remember, stay critical, stay thinking. I'm David de Hilster. I'm your science therapist trying to get to the promised land of becoming a critical thinker. Ciao for now.